Black men continue to experience these unemployment gaps, especially older and disabled black men. For example, black men's unemployment soared to a high of 16% in June 2020. And by February of this year, the unemployment rate hovered at more than twice that of white men. Why is that?
Well, it's what we already know, Tiffany, and what we've known for decades. Since 1972, when the federal government has been tracking consistent data on unemployment, the black unemployment rate has been twice as high since 1972 as the white unemployment rate. And we know the reasons. It's not rocket science. It's not a so-called skills gap that some economists would have us think. It is structural barriers, discrimination, the old saying, last hired, first fired. It is occupational segregation. When black men are able to get hired, also black women, they get channeled into low-wage jobs. It is partly because of incarceration. So we know that there are black men right now serving time and working full-time, not making a minimum wage because the minimum wage does not apply to jails or prisons. So all of this adds up. If you think of segregation, occupational segregation, discrimination, not being hired, it's a loss of about $50 billion a year going into black communities because black men can't find work.
You know, Dorian laid it up for me to ask you this, Michael, because when you look at who's being hired, black men are not. And there's data to back it up. If black men experience the same employment rates as white men on average, an additional 406,270 black men would have been employed each month in 2021. That's kind of baffling to me. So what needs to happen for more black men to get hired? Because I appreciate Dorian's point. It's not a lack of skill.
Right. So what Dorian is talking about in this unemployment rate is not really an indication of the problem, right? The problem starts, and the unemployment rate is the indicator of where we are with the problem, right? So it starts with, like, we got to focus on education. We remove men from the employment opportunities with incarceration. We remove them in the education system. We know that black boys are viewed as more violent and they're punished more harshly in school. So you remove that portion from the people who can get hired, and then you remove them with incarceration, and then you remove them with targeting by police. And when you remove all of those people from the pot of people who can get a job, you end up with this unemployment rate, right? Yeah. So it's not like we just got to hire more black men. We got to stop targeting more black men with police. We got to start focusing on black men in education. We got to start focusing on black men in college. And then what we end up with, like, we ain't got to do nothing with the hiring part. We got to do something with all of the parts that result in the hiring part.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Dorian, I have to completely understand Michael's point and agree with it. I want to say student loans are a huge deal for African Americans. Nearly 1 in 4 black adults carry a student loan balance. So I'm just curious, if student loan debt forgiveness did happen, would this have an impact on the problem we're discussing now?
Absolutely. I bet many of us talking right now are first-generation college graduates. We took out debt, and there's a study by the Roosevelt Institute that looks at what would it mean to cancel student debt up to $50,000 for black families. It would increase black wealth by 40%. So yes, it would have an immediate effect on the purchasing power, particularly of black communities, and their ability to participate in the economy and actually put some money back into black communities. So no question, Tiffany, that canceling student debt has racial equitable outcomes.
And I mean, Michael, to your point, because you were saying it's structural and systemic, which makes a lot of sense. But even the black men who are working are not paid fairly. In 2020, black men earned just 75 cents for every dollar earned by white men. And so, I mean, a part of this economic recovery, it seems like it is highlighting and perpetuating systemic racism in this country. And so, I mean, it's easy to say, like, yeah, we have to address the structure of the country. How do we do that to have an immediate impact, particularly on black men?
First of all, with reparations,
let's just make that happen.
With student debt forgiveness, we forget, like, the economy holds black men in these low-paying and low-wage jobs
Yeah.
to pay off student debt, so they cannot become entrepreneurs. They can't become, so it kind of holds them hostage in that economy that treats them unfairly by saddling them with debt to even accomplish the same thing that like white people get when they wake up out of bed and take a shower, right?
Yeah.
So it's so many factors that goes into this structure, right?
Right.
When you remove all of the structural factors, what you have is a more equal society.
Yeah.
And so we got to stop. Like, we got to target this stuff in the beginning and stop focusing on the result of the inequality.
Yeah.